Kaustubh Belapurkar joins us, Director Fund Research with Morningstar. Should we keep HDFC Bank as constant? It never changes, right?
Yeah. So I think it's been the darling of the street for a long time, and it shows 5.5% of overall equity allocations of the Indian market mutual funds is in HDFC Bank. So by far the largest holding, and month on month we've seen additions to that sort of counter, and we heard Harsha earlier where clearly still the retail sort of banks that on the street is preferring, and this is clearly the outshining star on that space. So HDFC Bank, we continue to see additions that's happening. The interesting bit this month has been Axis Bank, which has seen a fair bit of money that's come in, and we've seen some selling in the past, but in fact what happened last month with the NPA divergence, but with the inclination to raise some more capital, and that's where I think the street's gotten more vigor to coming into a counter like Axis Bank, and we've seen it being one of the largest buys for the month of October. I think some of the other usual suspects, like you said, HDFC Bank, HDFC Limited, they continue. But the interesting few trends that are emerging is pharma we've seen buying, and that's not just, so Sun Pharma clearly pops up in one of the top buys for the month, but there are other pharma counters that are also getting some buying.
Is there any pocket where you have seen or noticed that money is moving out of? So any concern with regards to NBFCs, Bajaj Finances of the world?
So we've seen a few sellouts in mid-cap counters where it's more of a profit booking move. I think the only place where we've seen fair bit of selling is Karur Vyasa Bank, which also had a bit of NPA slippages, and we've seen a fair bit of selling from a couple of asset managers who are holding that stock. But otherwise, it's largely been mid-cap counters where you've made your 2-3x over the last year. You don't mind taking some money off the table.
NBFCs, HFCs, money is intact?
So in fact, the interesting bit is HDFC is the largest money where it's coming. The others are getting a trickle, but there's no selling. There's been some profit booking on a lot of PSU banks. I mean, that's understandable given the run-up they had in October. But again, we've seen some selling in ICICI Bank, IndusInd, Kotak Mahindra, but it's marginal selling, so to speak. Largely financials have still been adding.
That's interesting that you're saying there's profit taking in PSBs, because one would imagine that the destinies would have changed after the PSU Bank recap plan. What's the trend that you're seeing here within PSBs?
So I would say it's marginal profit taking. It's not like you're selling out your entire positions. You're just taking some money off the top.
But that was under-owned, so
yes,
you can't really draw the parameter.
I mean, it's a very short-term phenomena right now. It's just this month. Long-term, we still expect people to keep adding positions there.
But specifically, you were saying that SBI has seen some selling, whereas Axis Bank has seen some buying. So explain that.
So Axis Bank, I think, managers sitting with a lot of money, they've seen that opportunity where the price did drop. You want to get in on a counter where you're still reasonably positive on, and you see a drop in the value when you come in, and that's really been the strategy, because we have to acknowledge that there's so much money that's coming into funds that managers are always looking at opportunities to buy. So the moment there's an OFS or there's a private placement, we come in and lap it up, and we've seen some of those happen in the month of October.
But what's also interesting is that the largest estimated sale values happen in SBI, and the largest estimated buy value or purchase values happen in Axis Bank.
That's right.
Which fund has taken any new contra bets?
So I wouldn't say new contra bets, but there's, for instance, ICICI has been one of the value contra managers, and you can clearly see them continuing to do that, where they're holding Sun Pharma to a large extent. Wipro is amongst the top 3 holdings, so clearly that is one on the counter. The other one that's been happening over the last few months is HDFC and ICICI have also been adding INFI. Month on month you've seen an addition. So in fact, if you see this month, INFI was a minus sell. That's largely arbitrage funds. HDFC and ICICI continue to add INFI to their portfolio, so we're still fairly positive on that counter.
What has the mid-cap flavor been like? Any stock which has aggressively moved in or moved out in the mid-cap space?
So moved in, Apollo Tyres, clearly the QIP, so there was an opportunity for managers to get in, and a lot of them did. There was Nivelli Lignite, another OFS, yes. So you get opportunities, you get in. The other interesting bit is Oberoi Realty, where you're seeing real estate. They've been very selective, but we've seen a couple of asset managers adding, just purely believing in the quality of the company over some of the others on the street, and they've bought in there. On the sell side, it's interesting, right? So we've seen something like a Rain Industries, I mean, it's had a sharp up move over the last year, and we saw a lot of selling last month from one of the asset managers. There's another asset manager that sold off almost all their positions, in this month. Similarly for IFB Industries, where most of the money is being taken off the table from DSP. So we've seen these trends where, if you've seen a sharp run up, let's go ahead and book those profits.
I have to ask you about the ADAG group of stocks. I know that may not be on your radar, and I'm sure none of the mutual funds have that. But just in terms of money flow, what is it that you've seen? Because the news flow has been pretty mixed over there. First, there was that junk bond rating concern that the management came out, clarified their status, and then a big sharp reversal in the entire group.
Yeah, so to be honest, those stocks haven't really popped up on our radar because the numbers have been quite marginal. But if you look at, for instance, RCOM, the holdings have been marginal, and if anything, they've just been pairing positions rather than adding. The one stock, obviously, which recently got listed, the asset management company, while we don't have the numbers yet for that, we know there are a few asset managers who have subscribed to that, despite valuations being rich. Clearly, this is the first in its space, and they are excited about getting into the space.
In your conversations, I'm sure you've got a view on HDFC Life as well. It's been a bumper listing, while the data may not be reflective at all, and I'm sure you don't have a handle on that just yet. What's the chatter on the street like?
So again, not a very stock specific view, but generally if you look at it, I think managers have been adding life insurance. Most of the listings, you talk about ICICI Life, SBI Life, they've been adding positions, and not just in the life, even on the general insurance, your ICICI Lombard or your New India Assurance, there have been additions. So this is a space that's opening up. Might be a little expensive, but given the potential for growth where managers are seeing, and also a function of the amount of money that they're getting,
It's a positive.
Absolutely.
L&T, have you seen any buying interest there?
Last few months, limited. A few managers have added, but I wouldn't say a very. I mean, it's not a whole hog move for that.
It's still core holding in most
core holding in portfolios for sure.
Yeah.
So that continues.
Has anyone bought all your Sarkari insurance paper? New India, GIC, Gen Insurance, a whole host of them.
Yes. So New India, the numbers are not out yet, so we'll probably talk about it next month. But general insurance, I haven't really seen any large numbers.
But insurance at large?
Insurance at large has been one of the pet moves over the last few months. Definitely, they've been, in fact, we saw SBI Life. There's a lot of additions even in this month.
I just noticed
people who came in post IPO and added positions quite significant.
So a month ago, if we would have analyzed the data, we would have said, look, the HDFC as a fund house is the only one which is like a breakaway from the crowd. Everyone has bought into private banks and NBFCs. HDFC bought into PSU banks, and they bought into metals.
That's right.
Any interesting scheme or a fund manager who's trying to break away from the crowd?
So clearly, like I said, ICICI has one.
They are doing the value.
They're doing the value.
They bought Telecom, they bought Tata stocks, and they've also bought a little bit of pharma.
And they're underweight NBFCs.
Okay.
You can clearly see that. If the street's sitting at 30% of the portfolios in financials, which is a large part, a fair part of the NBFCs, ICICI is at about 20% of the portfolio. So it's a significant divergence, and obviously, clearly, IT and pharma are the largest bets for the time.
What has been the average churn by some of the mutual funds? As more money is coming in, are they churning more, or are they not churning at all?
Very limited churning. Very limited churning, simply because you have to have opportunities to deploy, so you're not really going to sell out unless there are significant issues with the counter, or you've seen so much money you want to take some off the table, but you just continue to look for opportunities to add.
There are no redemptions.
Redemptions, no. So if you look at the flows, last month was 15,000 crores in pure equity. If I just look at the last 4 months, when that real blowout in the flows happened, it's about 65,000 crores in 4 months in pure equities, plus balance funds of another 25-30,000.
These numbers look like unrealistic to me, almost like textbook number. If you look at these are aspirational numbers, and even the most bullish opinions were centered around 5,000 crores, 7,000 crores. 65,000 crores is almost $10 billion.
Absolutely.
Any equity, including arbitrage.
Yes, and that's 4 months. So
that's 4 months.
1 year since demonetization, it's been about 1.35 lakh crores.
So demonetization has surely helped the mutual fund industry the most. Let me put it this way.
For sure. Okay, Kaustubh, always good to chat with you and get in and map the trends of the mutual fund industry, where they're buying, what is it that they're selling. But let's also bring